Hi, today I want to talk to you about how to use Google Forms for engagement during lessons. We've been using it for a while for exit tickets, but what about during a lesson? Is there any way to get students to use Google Forms during lessons? Well, today I want to share with you one way that that could be done, and it's kind of like a way for them to be answering questions throughout the lesson just to make sure they're paying attention and to spark discussions during your lessons. So I have here a lesson or a Google form that I created just on the Bill of Rights. It's probably more than what you want to cover in a single lesson, but just for example, this is what I'm using today. So I have it up here, 3 standard questions that you might have on any Google form. What is your name? What is your student ID? What is your email? And then I have below that a, uh, a slide. Just says slide, First Amendment. So this is the slide where this question is going to come in. And the question is, what are the 5 freedoms included in the First Amendment? And the student can go through and check off those 5 freedoms. But when do they answer that? Well, that would be here. If I go to this lesson that I created, I would have this lesson. I'd probably have a slide in here where I explain the Google form and give them a link to the Google form and that sort of thing. Then on this next slide, I have the First Amendment, and I have Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or the press or the right of the people to peaceably assemble and petition the government for redress of grievances. And then I have down here this little symbol, Google Forms. And this tells me, as well as the students, hey, remember that Google form I had sent you earlier? This is a time I want you to go to that Google form and answer the question under the slide, the First Amendment. So they would be able to go here, okay, what are the 5? Religion, freedom of speech, a press, assemble, and petition. And they would probably want to go back and forth maybe a couple times just to make sure that they got it. This is really a knowledge level question. This isn't really getting into the depth of knowledge. But then I would go back here to the lesson, and of course I'd have a slide explaining these 5 different freedoms. This is why probably it's going to take more than a lesson to get through all 10 amendments. But then I would have a slide here for Everybody Writes. And Everybody Writes is a great activity to get your students writing and to get them thinking critically. So I would have this Everybody Writes. Here is a Google form reminder. Reminder, guys, go back to this Google form. All 5 of the freedoms in the First Amendment are important. Which do you think is most important and why? So I would give them time during the lesson to go back to the Google form and answer this question. All 5 freedoms in the First Amendment are important. Which do you think is important and why? So I would have them writing during class in this Google form in a way that I could collect at the end of class. So it gives them that incentive to write. And plus, because I'm having them think about it and write it, I can have a discussion. I could have the students take the mic. What did you write? What was the one that you thought was the most important? And I'm not putting them on the spot. They've already thought it through. They've already written. I've already given them time to think this through. So then I would go back to of course, a lesson, and we would have our little discussion here about which one they thought was the most important. We would go to the Second Amendment, a well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So again, I have this Google form here. Hey guys, time to go to Google Forms, answer this question. Again, a knowledge level question is what I'll have here. Just to fill in the blanks, I actually have 2 on this slide. Well-regulated blank being necessary for the security of the free state. Okay, identify that. Are you paying attention? Are you with us? And then a fill in the blank, the right of the blank to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So again, but then I could have like close reading. I could have maybe a couple articles on, well, what does this mean? There's a big debate about what does that first clause and the second clause mean together. And maybe I would have them read 2 different opinions about the meaning of the Second Amendment. Which one do you think is most important? Why do you think that's most important? So they would be able to look through that and answer that. So that is just one way of using Google Forms throughout the lesson, not just at the end of the lesson, to be able to collect the work from the students, to hold them accountable for what you're doing. So I look forward to hearing how this might go in your classroom, whether or not it's something that your students can handle. And thank you for your time today.